You want a sailboat, but you don't want to sell your firstborn to get it, or take out a second mortgage, or both. Your budget isn't $300,000, it's more like $3,000 or $300. Same here. I want to sail, I want the freedom, I want the adventure, I want the sunsets. So there's an option for those of us who want a boat, but we don't want to spend a fortune, and that's buying a really old boat. Sure, you can still get a really good boat and not spend that much if you just look for something with some age on it. I've owned a lot of boats now, and I haven't had any boat that's less than 30 to 40 years old. The most recent boat I bought was a 1994, which I got 2 years ago, which was right around 30. I've had boats built in the 1970s and 80s, which are all getting 40 or 50 years old now. If you shop smart, these boats can have a lot of life left in them and can give you a lot of value. That being said, sailboats are you do get what you pay for kind of thing. You don't necessarily need to spend a fortune, but once you get into a boat that's 3 decades old or older, you're definitely going to have some problems in the boat, and you're going to discover problems after you get it. So let's look at my boat, and we'll look at all the problems I've had since I bought it. I went shopping on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, and I looked at a few brokers too, trying to find a specific model of boat. I was trying to find a Catalina 320, which are fairly common on the Great Lakes, but they're not as common as a Catalina 27 or 30, which there are tons of around. I bought the boat with cash. I did not have a survey done. I just rolled the dice on it, thinking it looked kind of okay, so let's just go for it. If I got a survey, I may have lost the deal. So cash only, no survey. It was on the other side of the Great Lakes. Right after I got it, I had to send it on a 475-mile trip to get it back here, which is a story of itself, and we'll do another episode about that later on. So now let's get into the details of the boat. This is my 1994 Catalina 320. It was about 30 years old when I got it. I've had it for a couple of years now. Overall, we did a lot of polishing to make this look better. It's fairly shiny now. It's a fairly generic 1990s cruising sailboat with the walk-through transom, most kind of modern features on it. Here's the inside of the boat. It's fairly clean. There's not really any watermarks in the cushion anywhere. There's still the original cushions, but they have quite a bit of life left in them. The ceiling's fairly clean. These are fiberglass headliners, so there's no fabric to fall down and get disgusting. And there's not really any watermarks coming off of any of the fasteners inside, so it looks like the previous owner did a good job resealing stuff. Then we've got our V-berth up here with the original cushion still. We've got the head, and then we've got the back where they've lost the covers for the cushions at some point in the back. But the foam feels fairly stiff, and they're so comfortable still, but that is one thing that's missing on this boat. The boat did have a bunch of things wrong and broken with it. We found after buying it, some more serious than others. So let's take a look at all the things we found that were wrong with the boat that we had to correct after getting it. The canvas on this was all shot when I got it. This bimini is the last remaining piece, and you can see it's all kind of moldy and yuck. All of the zippers are falling off. I have to restitch all of them. You can see the windows all cracked and fogged, and this was the state of the Dodger windows too. We've since replaced the Dodger with kind of an awning, but this was the state of all the windows anywhere. All the canvas was kind of rolled up in a bundle inside the boat when it got, so I didn't get to unwrap it, but when I went to use it the first time, I discovered it was all falling apart. The zippers were all falling off, and none of it was really salvageable. I've kind of stretched it by resewing the zippers, but that's as much as you can do. This autopilot, so it is a Auto Helm ST4000, or it's Auto Helm anyway. All the rollers were broken inside of it. You can see where we put the fasteners in here, replaced the rollers, most of them. However, the guy who was selling the retrofit for these no longer makes them. So went to use it the first time, it wasn't hooked up, so we had to hook the power up to it, and then we tried to use it and found out all the rollers inside weren't there, so it just jammed the wheel up all the time. Didn't really work. The boat had a radar installed on it when we got it. The radar display in the nav pod is completely baked. You can't see a thing on it when it's turned on. You get a little bit of black around the edges, but that's it, so it's completely useless. The antenna was still installed in the mast. It was advertised as functional, but when you went to try and actually use it, it was not. We've installed a GPS in the same location on the nav pod and got rid of the antenna off the mast now. This is just general quirkiness of what you'll find in used boats. For instance, this bimini is outside of the cockpit seats, so the cockpit seats are not in the shade, so this is definitely something I would not have done this way when I was selling the boat originally, but this is what the last owners did with it. At some point, I'm going to cut the bimini frame and widen it so it covers these seats back here, and new canvas obviously. So the boat is 30 years old. These hatch covers, the glass will start getting brittle. This one we just replaced. A few days ago I was walking on top of the cabin dealing with the mainsail and just stepped on it and it cracked. Here's a photo of the cracked glass on it. It is fairly easy to get replacement paints for these, so it's not too difficult, but expect when your boat's getting old that these will become brittle and start failing on you. The biggest problem we've had with this boat so far was the engine on launch day. I did not try to turn the engine over when I was looking at the boat or do anything with it. On launch day, the engine would not spin when we pushed the start button outside. The culprit is the starter motor relay. There's just corrosion on the contacts. And I did find, while getting through the boat, like a couple old burnout relays. So this is one where you have to watch out for if the boat won't turn over, or clean these contacts on a semi-regular basis. Overall, the engine runs real good. Otherwise, you can see some kind of tape and some little bit of ugliness here on it, but overall, it's a pretty good engine. It's a Perkins M30. According to the ad when we bought this boat, the engine was, quote, serviced annually. If you look at the sticker that's on the oil filter behind the engine, it says October 5th, 2012, and there's a similarly old sticker on the fuel filter. Obviously, we bought this boat in 2023, so you can do the math on the age of this filter. We changed it. The oil looked okay. You can't always trust what you see in the ads on Marketplace or Craigslist or even Yacht World for that matter with regards to engine and how well it was maintained. The other issue we've had on the engine with this boat is this water intake hose where the cold water from the engine comes in, cracked and started leaking. I bought this boat on the other side of Michigan, on Lake Michigan, and had to have it transferred over here to Lake St. Clair right away after launching it. And on the first day of delivery, this hose cracked and started leaking water, and so they had to replace the hose. Again, a 30-year-old boat. A lot of the hoses are kind of getting dry and may need to be replaced, so don't be surprised if you get some leaks on the hoses or anything. It's a good practice to always close your through hulls when you're not at the boat. So we were out one day and I left the through hulls open for the bathroom. And after an hour of sailing, we found that this bathroom was totally flooded back here. There was 6 inches of water on the floor by the bedroom, and we couldn't figure out why, so I closed the through hulls. I discovered later on that this hose back here, the one that's down here lower, this hose clamp was not attached, and so that had come off, so this hose was actually detached. The water was just coming straight off this hose anytime the boat tipped over to that side. So always check your hoses, make sure those clamps are attached. Hoses and clamps, especially on older boats, they've kind of had some wear and time to loosen up. This boat has refrigeration. It does not work. The compressor has leaked all the refrigerant out of it, so it would need a new compressor and refrigerant to have working refrigeration in the boat. I never really stay on the boat overnight very much, so I'm fine with using ice, but that's a common problem on these older boats is things need pressurized like refrigerant or the stove, the natural gas system. The hoses are getting old and they may develop leaks. Check if you start losing pressure or things don't work or the refrigeration's not cold. You probably got a leaky hose or just it's aged and enough corrosions happen that it just doesn't hold pressure anymore. Here in the electric panel, we replaced the VHF radio and added the stereo and the 12-volt outlets. This whole area is all new. It had a VHF radio that was easily the age of the boat that just barely worked. I would not trust my safety to need a call on it. I just replaced it with the GPS VHF, so you can just use the red emergency panic button if you get in trouble. I added this second 12-volt panel here because there just weren't enough switches on the main panel for the stereo and a few other things. The sticker I put here is to hide a hole because there's actually like a 1-inch hole underneath here that I just don't know what to fill in the hole with. Stickers are a nice way to cover the holes. This is the bilge. I did replace the bilge pump on this boat. When I first got the boat, there was a giant check valve in here and the bilge pump could not push enough water through to actually open the check valve. It was not able to actually push water out, but after doing that, removing the check valve, which shouldn't be there anyway, has no trouble pumping the bilge out. So that was most of the major items gone wrong in the last 2 years since we got this boat. So is buying a 30-year-old boat a terrible idea? Not at all. I love this boat and I would buy it again. It's everything I wanted it to be out on the water. It can be a character building and wallet challenging adventure sometimes too. Yes, stuff breaks. Yes, some repairs are annoying. If you don't take care of things, some could lead to sinking at the dock. If you take care of your boat, she'll take care of you. She's been on the water for 30 years so far, and she'll make it another 30 years of taking care of. Got a good story about your old boat? Leave it in the comments. I love hearing about other people's boat stories. If you haven't yet, remember to hit that subscribe button. More old boat chaos coming soon. Good luck out there, my friends.